Right, so what your angels want you to know today. Right, so I've got two boundary cards that have come out at different decks. Okay, so I believe I'm tapping into somebody who's either enforced some boundaries or they're going to. And what's happened here, I'm going to do it in past tense because I'd imagine that most of you have implemented these boundaries. But of course, if you haven't, I'd imagine Spirit is trying to nudge you to consider doing this. So now that you have enforced these boundaries and essentially stood your ground, you know, your boundaries are part of who you are, and perhaps before you weren't listening to keep other people happy, and you were trying to keep people happy that were wearing masks. But that was actually getting in the way of your own happiness. And now that you've recognized what you needed to do and put those boundaries up, you're finding your own happiness, and that's why we've got renewal here. Spirit wants you to know that this renewal that you're going through, and I think I get the feeling like you're shedding people pleasing. Perhaps there was a time before you were just very over accommodating, always trying to look after the other, trying to make the other as comfortable as possible at the expense of yourself. But now you've stepped into this new energy, and if it's not that, you just made a transition of some kind with boundaries involved. Spirit wants you to know what you've stepped into now will be with you always and forever. It's like you've stepped through a portal, and you're in a completely new timeline that it will always be with you. It's not budging anywhere. That's what Spirit wants you to know. We've got the love card out here. And when I first saw this, it looked like a group of friends, you know, like it looks like it's a group of people here. So I asked more about it, and I think there was a time that you were around a bunch of people, and again, it could be family, work colleagues, friends, ex-lovers, people you've chosen to love, and who essentially were taking you for granted. But you're now getting love from the divine. That's kind of making up for all of this, and these people are now frustrated, and you're coming out of frustration. Perhaps you were sort of filling other people's cup of love up, and yours wasn't getting replenished, and now you're in a portal where your love goes to yourself and to those who deserve it, but more importantly yourself first. And I think that's what one of the boundaries that possibly was missing. You've got a good luck card out here. If I've got, and then when I pulled about what's going on with that, it says never be ashamed for missing the mark. So if there's been times where you look back on this energy or anything and you feel like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, or I could have handled that better, or anything like that, Spirit wants you to recognize it's human. We're all learning, and it's okay to miss the mark. It's a problem when you keep missing the mark, the fact. So I don't know, if you give yourself a hard time, sort of like, I knew they were wearing masks, why did I sort of pretend to myself, or I knew that I was being taken for granted, why did I not stand my ground sooner, or something like this. Again, just put it where it fits. It applies to everything. Just don't give yourself a hard time about it. You're human. You're learning, and if you weren't learning, you wouldn't be here. Okay, you'd be back where you came from, which is the stars. Right. So the world is yours. You've got this card out here, and I think this is because you've stepped into this new portal. So and I also get the feeling maybe you're respecting the earth more. I'm not saying that you ever disrespected the earth, but maybe you're actually noticing nature and things in a different way. Like all of a sudden you like birds, like you really love the birds when you see them, or plants or trees. Like it's like you've slowed down a peg or two, and you can really sort of take it in. And if not, Spirit's asking you to do that, because obviously God made nature for you. It's the most beautiful piece of artwork there is. And Spirit wants you to possibly bring that in to your world, and as a sort of confirming card to clarify that. It says archangels, so I feel like your archangels are with you whilst you discover that this new world is yours. And again, it doesn't have to be nature. You know, there could be some endeavors you want to take part in, and, you know, pursue those as well. The storm is over. Sorry, we've got a celebration card, and I asked what, you know, to clarify what it is that you're celebrating. And it's that all of this is over. This storm is over. This storm where you were being taken for granted, where you weren't standing your ground, where you weren't truly listening to your intuition above the other. Perhaps you were, it was worse than that. There's, you know, you had to deal with some abusive nature going on, you know, just people not treating you well. But it's all over. That it's done, and you can literally celebrate that that's the case. Okay, so when you got your guides, and I genuinely believe this love is from your guides and your angels and your ancestors, because we've got the stars on that card. But when I asked for a clarifier, I got affirmations, and that came out yesterday in regards to a message. It's come up before, but the fact it's come out 2 days running, I feel like there is a message for, I don't know if it was yesterday actually, I think it might have been the day before, but yeah, to use affirmations. Your guides want you to use affirmations. You're always using affirmations all the time. Your mind chatters, I don't know what the number is, but I don't know, it's like 20,000 thoughts a day. You're always affirming things, but half the time when you're not conscious, you're affirming negative things. Possibly this energy you're tapping into and you're affirming it. Whereas if you listen to positive affirmations, write your own positive affirmations, you can start correcting that. And I think for some of you, your guides are wanting you to understand that that's really going to help you. And start small. If you're just like, it doesn't feel like something you want to do, a bit like the nature thing, just try it out. Do 2 minutes. I always say just do 2 minutes of things and build if you so wish, or just stay with the 2 minutes and see how it goes. You know, give it 2 weeks and see how you feel, if it's worth carrying on or not. I suspect you'll say yes. Right, so the mirror was sideways, and I think the mirror is sideways because you're no longer in these people's lives. You're not their mirror anymore. They're a mirror that they used to prop themselves up in some way. They enjoyed taking you for granted. They enjoyed possibly not having your best interests at heart, affirming thoughts that aren't very nice, or reflections that aren't true. But now these people are sorry that they didn't show their love, because possibly, you know, a lot of people, they may behave badly unconsciously. You know, they don't know themselves very well. And it's not a case that they don't love you. That's all they have to work with. That's the recipe they have, and until they get more ingredients, that's all they can give you. But that doesn't mean you go, oh, okay, well, that's a shame. I won't stand my ground anymore. Then I won't have any boundaries because you've only got 3 ingredients. So how could you? It's not about that. It's about discovering what it is you want in your life, and you know, perhaps you don't like that food anymore, and that's fine. Right, so you've let go of people that were distracted from you. I feel like they delayed things. Perhaps they delayed things for you, just by being in your energy. They didn't want you to have positive change, but I'm also hearing they might have hyped you up when you had positive ideas, but at the moment they started to actually, like, they saw material movement of that, then they sort of backed off, or they were like delayed at getting back to you. You know, there was just something, there was asymmetry going on, and they essentially didn't have loyalty to you. I think they were dealing with arrogance and ego. They got the karma card, and I believe it's because of the way they've treated you, because for some of them, I don't believe it was unconscious. Was it malicious? Possibly not. But I don't think it was completely unconscious. They enjoyed having you as that footstool. And I'm not saying you are a footstool, but that's where they energetically wanted to put you in their mind so they could regulate themselves, so they could feel superior. And you were never interested in feeling superior to any of these energies, but they are in that kind of comparative, insecure mindset, devoid of spirit, devoid of that feminine truth, that the intuitive feminine truth that we're missing. So when I asked what the karma was, I saw job offer upside down when I cut that deck. And then I left it. And then when I clarified again, I clarified 3 things, and it's penny dropped. And I believe the penny has dropped. Now your energy is not there. Now that your energy is more with spirits and your higher self, and looking after yourself and working out what it is that makes you happy. Getting into the energy of celebrating the storm is over, forgiving yourself for whatever has happened ever. Now what's happening is the pennies dropped because their money is funny, okay? And perhaps this is what they put in front of you. And if it's not money, it could have been a case where they didn't give you much of their time, okay? And they deliberately was doing this. Again, it doesn't have to be malicious, they're just working with the ingredients they have, but that's what was happening. And that's where the dent of karma is coming. Right, so cloudy judgment's upside down because you don't have cloudy judgment about this anymore. Perhaps there was a time, I believe there was a time you did. You were sort of pulling the wall over your own eyes, because I'm sure I'm tapping into somebody who's pretty intuitive. I haven't got any cards out yet suggesting so, but the fact that you're even here would suggest that you have some. Yes, so you're not distorted about this anymore. You know what it is, and you understand what's went on, and it's not what you want. And essentially it was people being cruel, because they were concealing their truth, okay? They were concealing that they didn't really want you to, they're not true, they weren't true friends. And a true friend wants the best for you, and truly wants the best for you, even if you surpass them, or you know what I mean, like you love them, you want the best for them. That's what love is. Well, not the only thing that love is, but that's part of it. Okay, so there was an energy once upon a time. I think obsession is quite a strong word, but I think you had an infatuation with these energies. And if it wasn't, there could be a few energies going on. If there was a love interest, you put them on a very high pedestal. You put these people on a higher pedestal than yourself at one point, that's for sure. But that's changed. The angels have stepped in. If anyone's on a pedestal, it would be your archangels, your angels, your ancestors, divine spirit. That's where they've sort of replaced them. I wouldn't say infatuation might be strong and addiction might be strong, but there was a time perhaps you just have some like codependency, and that's kind of cleared up for the most part now, and they can feel the energy is completely different. And again, the boundaries card is here, 3 cards towards the end. So you've drawn the line. This whatever it was, codependency, something or other, you've grown from it. There's growth here. You don't have this anymore, and that's why you could enforce these boundaries. And it's because of spirit moved you. The angels moved you. I saw that card fell on the floor. The angels moved you here. They wanted you to see the truth. Perhaps there was a time you couldn't see the truth. You weren't ready. Even though you knew, you just weren't ready to, maybe you were chewing it, but you weren't swallowing it. And you're probably chewing it and spitting it out, going, no, like they said I was lovely the other day. It can't be true. That kind of thing. Yeah, so your connection to spirit is stronger, and it's stronger now you've set your boundaries. So spirit wants you to continue setting your boundaries, because they'll be in place forever. So I think the people in your energy and yourself have had the realization that you're in this new life, this renewal. You're stepping into a new season, a new chapter. You're you grew. You grew away from people that wanted to play games, didn't show their love, took you for granted, wanted you energetically as a footstool and things like this. And I don't know, possibly they could be getting readings on you, but for those of the ones that you left behind that do have a bit of intuition, they also know, and they also know that the only thing they can do now is long for you and sort of have the memories of you. I've got the let go of judgment card here, so again that brings me to this, like if there was a time that you've been quite judgmental on yourself, and possibly others, like I do try to balance things up, you know, even when people behave abominably, it doesn't mean like, oh, you know, just explain it away and balance it out, because you know, there's a reason for everything. Feel your anger, you're allowed to do that, express it in art or writing, and you know, feel it. You need, you know, it needs to come out. It's a bit like a tumor, it needs to be cut out, but at the same time, humans are fallible, and half the time people aren't usually deliberately malicious. They're just trying to regulate themselves with the ingredients they have, and cruelty often stems from a severe amount of weakness. And as I say often, you could have been here 2 lifetimes ago, if not 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago. You know, like, we're all learning, but again, what was possibly happening is that you had this kind of nature, and you knew that, you know, no one's better than anyone, we're all learning and things like that, but you weren't standing your ground, you weren't choosing the right environment for you to grow, and now you have done, and you're now in the pursuit of wisdom. That's why I've got the owl card here. And I do believe you have wisdom, but perhaps you're around people that weren't actually encouraging that wisdom. You know, like, again, it wasn't a place for you to flourish or thrive. You're actually just battling low vibrational frequencies and constantly transmuting and alchemizing these lower energies, rather than getting on with your mission, which is self-love, presumably, and trying to fall in love with your own life. And you've now set the parameters where there's no more storms, where you can actually do that. And in some ways the penny dropped for you, that you do need to have boundaries, and the archangels have helped you with that. But I am being pulled to these affirmation cards, you know, to think about affirmations when things are dipping. Okay, so we've got a mother and father out here, so I don't know if they had something to do with this. It said, and again, it doesn't have to be your mother and father, it could be an auntie, grandmother, somebody who was supposed to be a mother figure, like a very, I don't know, a doctor, somebody who's supposed to look after you, something like that, who's crossed over, and Spirit wants you to know that they're with you, they're watching you. And I've got a mother figure here too, and again, it doesn't have to be a mother, just somebody of supposed to be in a maternal role, and that's what they were supposed to present for you. And I've also got your father is sorry, and again, they passed over the same thing, but Spirit wants you to know that, and it's come out before. Okay, and maybe, as very often with attachment theory, a lot of our wounds do stem from our attachment figures, and perhaps if you did have attachment figures where the love was conditional, or, you know, it wasn't balanced and it wasn't nourishing, you are going to use that premise to understand what it is that you accept into your life. And that's possibly what went on here, and it was to undo the wound. That's why you do it. Your higher self is desperate to undo the wounds that you have carried through as a child, and that's why you brought this about, and you've done it. You did it, and you're stronger now. That's why the strength card is out. Spirit's also suggesting for you to read a spiritual book. Again, start with 2 minutes. Again, and it doesn't have to be for all of you, but I think in the affirmations and spiritual book, it's just to help you with this new life, to keep the vibration, so you don't tap into this energy you've left behind. You don't keep thinking about that storm. You don't you don't dip into that. So anything else, Spirit, for the highest good of all, in God's will, so I can help the collective. I did see the healing card. I won't take those, Spirit, because I want it to be a bit clearer. I did see the healing card, so I think for the most part it feels like you've healed this, you've done it, but I do think I'm probably tapping into some people that still look at that storm, or think about that storm that they were in. Heartbreak card is there. Yeah, so I think I am tapping into somebody who, I don't think you're in heartbreak. Who you could be. I could be tapping into somebody that's heartbroken that this has had to happen. But for the most of you, I feel like you have healed that heartbreak, but it was heartbreaking to recognize all of this, and there are some bruises left. I saw heartbreak again. It could be somebody else in your energy that's heartbroken. Yeah, it could have been perhaps the I think you had some energies in your energy that were quite cruel, and we know that because we've got King of Swords upside down, but exploitative, and they're also heartbroken. I don't think you are heartbroken. I think it was heartbreaking to be on the receiving end of this, and I do think you could tap into it every now and then. But Spirit wants you to know, if you wanted to sort of identify who this is, they were manipulative, they were selfish, they were prejudiced upon you, and exploitative, and possibly sarcastic. So they're the what would you call them? The qualities they exhibited. I keep seeing heartbreak. I've got sun here, so could be fire, a fire sign, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, so allow the messages to fly out, Spirit. I know you're flashing some, but what do you want me to read? Yeah, these people are heartbroken that it's over, because I keep seeing the heartbreaking world. They wanted reunion with you, okay? They wanted to celebrate with you, but they know you're celebrating that it's over. You know, like you're celebrating that you've got a connection to Spirit now, and you're soul searching. Do you want anything to fall out, Spirit, for the highest good of all? Could involve a Leo, because I keep seeing the sun flash. Somebody that was keeping things hidden from you. Do you want anything to come out, Spirit, for the highest good of all? I don't think they do. Oh, okay. Okay, so somebody wants to come out from the cold and give you an offer. More than likely, somebody that was badly behaved towards you. Maybe a bit of a tyrant. Somebody who maybe comes across as strong, but we've got the strength card upside down. They're not that strong. You know, it's a mask. I'm being brought to the masks up here. I think this person thought you were a Queen of Wands upside down. So quite short-sighted, maybe not as clever as you are. Somebody who wasn't going to put themselves first, because at the moment they're just in this longing energy. And again, it doesn't have to be romantic, but they know you've grown out of this, and they don't want that to be the case. And that I'm leading to here, sorry I didn't show you my love. But people are sorry when your energy goes. You know, it's like a vacuum is left, especially if you're spiritually connected. You know, it felt even more. Yeah, so you released this. That's why the Two of Cups is upside down. There wasn't enough love here for you. There wasn't enough loyalty. Yeah, and the sun's out here. There could be fire sign involved, but it became illuminated to you that you deserve better than this, but they didn't think that you were going to leave. The Emperor's come out, and I believe it's because this person wanted to look like an emperor in your life. I'm being brought back to the masks. But they're not. They're a King of Swords upside down. Perhaps they have some achievements, you know, like some sort of worldly status, but you got status in the spirit world, which kind of matters more, to be honest. And perhaps they were unaware of that. Yeah, so they wanted reunion with you, but I'm also feeling, that they weren't loyal, and they were, working with third parties and stuff. but they don't want to do that anymore. They're bored with their options. But just be careful of that energy, because I don't really... I mean, they don't want to be toxic anymore. They recognise the right things, but it's because your energy is not there anymore. You know, you recognise how much you need electricity when it's not, when it cuts out, and you want it back. And you don't go, you know, you don't every day. You don't go, oh, you know, I'm so thankful I have electricity. Every time you turn a light on, like, thank God I have electricity. Like, you don't do that. And if that's kind of what's happened here. They just got used to you. You were literally this person's light, and they gave nothing to you, or very little, or not what you needed at least. Anything else, Spirit, for the highest good of all? Yeah, they thought you were an empress upside down. Tell me more about that, Spirit. So, you know, somebody who, you know, not tapped into the divine, essentially, hasn't recognised their worth. And maybe there was a period that you were, I don't know. And again, maybe that's why that's coming out, like, don't be ashamed, or, you know, but that you didn't recognise your worth at one point. But that you're not anymore, if that is, you know, if that is the case. And again, if that doesn't ring true, this person just thought you weren't tapped into the divine. They thought they were the emperor, but you're the empress, and you actually are the emperor in your own life. I'm being brought to pennies dropped. Yeah, they were just a knight of wands and a king of swords upside down. So it's just somebody in and out. And again, this doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be love, but it did feel like it was going there. Yeah. So this person's experiencing stagnancy in their income. And again, it doesn't have to be money. I know we saw the money card, but essentially it's their well-being. It's their... Yeah, they didn't plan for this. I think your departure's impacting their well-being, and therefore it's having a knock-on effect on other things. And they didn't foresee this. They thought that footstool and that electricity was just always going to be there. Anything else, Spirit, for the highest good of all? Oh. Yeah, they didn't realise them not making a choice was making a choice, and that's what you realised. So you made the choice for them, or Spirit made the choice for them, but they didn't think you were going to make this judgment that you're going to choose peace. They just did not think so. Because they thought you were the empress upside down. They didn't think that you knew your worth. They thought you enjoyed problems, and maybe they're starting to read a heartbreak card here. Now they're heartbroken because they know they should have given you love. They know that you've gone because you didn't get what you deserved. But maybe you let them get away with it for a long time. They thought, well, this is easy. I don't need to do much at all. She just loves me. The lights are always on. Got somewhere to rest my feet. But you were the empress all along. Even if, you know, you weren't recognising it. You had the heart of an empress. Yeah, you're not confused about this. This was just a burden to you now. You're happy with the changes that you've made. And if you're not, you will be. Because you don't want people that wear masks. Anything else, Spirit, for the highest good of all? Yeah, they're in pain. And, you know, if they were somebody who liked to party and things like that, they're not doing that anymore. They find their options boring. I'm being brought back to electricity again. Maybe there's a lot of chemistry with you. The party again's upside down. I just don't think they're enjoying it the way they used to. If that was their stuff, yeah. If this is a twin flame, because you've stepped into your spiritual lifestyle, it's gonna have a knock-on effect to your divine counterpart. Even if they were an upside down divine counterpart, it is going to have an impact. So they might not understand why. I think I'm sort of witchcraft there. They might think it's witchcraft, but all of a sudden those things that really interested them aren't interesting them, and they're also seeing lots of signs. Yeah, they don't want it to be a case where you are just a memory that they have to long for, and you know you're never going to be present again. That concerns them. But you, butterfly comes out in nearly every reading. You have spread your wings. Spirit showed you weren't a caterpillar or an upside down empress, and you've flown away. And you recognise that you don't want toxicity. Yeah, this person didn't know that they weren't illuminated to the fact that you have faith. They maybe thought you were into the same stuff they were into. You know, very 3D, materialism. Yeah, lust upside down. Maybe they're actually starting to realise it's not the way to go. Yeah, they're having Spirit's making them reflect. They don't like what they see. They're thinking about making some serious changes. They're starting to realise it's not a case of like God doesn't like it, therefore I shouldn't do it, but just growing up, I suppose. And what they're seeing they don't like. So they want to change some ways. Yeah, they were in a denial for a long time about it. And in reality, they didn't like it either. They were surviving. You know, lots of people that do low vibrational things, it's just trying to manage yourself. It's like a sort of a medicine, but that eventually makes you sick. You know, like it's just a self-medicating to some degree. But because they thought you were tethered to them, they didn't have to do this reflection. But now you're not tethered to them. You've flown away. You've renewed. You don't want to be around anyone that took you for granted. Maybe they made you feel shame or something. But yeah, you're heading towards good luck. You're much wiser now. You've grown. You're stepping into your new life. You're enjoying the smaller things. You don't want anybody that's cruel. And they were in denial of this energy that they were giving you, because perhaps they do deal with people that are upside down empresses, and it's fine. They're good with it. That maybe this lifetime they're not going to make that growth. And again, it doesn't mean that you're better than them or anything like that, but it's a completely different energy. Yeah, they feel dismissed by you, but I think they were dismissing you because they didn't want to feel the emotions that they felt for you. So they were going around people, partying with people, choosing people that they didn't even think, you know, they didn't really care about. Maybe it looked good for their prideful image or something, but they had no feelings there. But that was easier than actually risking getting their heart broke. But they've had their heart broken anyway by not doing the right thing because you flew away. Perhaps for a while it was controlling you, like you stayed around because you felt like, yeah, well, probably not good enough. And then you recognize, Spirit made you realise, yeah, I am. Yeah, they want union with you. Spirit wants you to know, if I'm tapping into someone today and, you know, you do feel like they've really turned a corner, make sure it's on your terms. And that means with these boundaries, the 2 boundaries cards came out for a reason, because this person wants union with you. They're not in denial. They can't handle the pain. It's impacting them. And they know you've grown. It's not a mask. I think they possibly were telling themselves, like, I don't know, maybe you've had a fling with someone else and you'll be back, or something like that. But you sort of, in some ways, you married God. I'm not saying you're a nun out there and, you know, you're absolutely perfect and you never have a glass of wine and you never, you know, all your thoughts are just completely angelic or something. But for the most part, you've recognised your worth and you've recognised the divine, and you don't want to be with somebody that doesn't only choose you. You know, if you are going to get into a relationship with somebody, you don't want somebody and you don't know where they were last Tuesday. That's the kind of energy they were giving you. Yeah, they know whatever that false emperor energy they had. Oh gosh, I've got to stop. Where they believe they were in control and stuff like that. They know that they're fooling themselves. They haven't. Yeah, you're single, or if you know, you're happily single, and you love yourself whilst you're single. And again, if you're not single, you love yourself and you're happy in yourself. And if you're not there, you will do. Soulmates are out. But I am tempted, and they also know you're not going to make the contact. I am tempted to. It's not to balance it out, but of course, like everyone, and unfortunately, all the horrible things that happen in the world, it does stem from childhood or past lives, but very often childhood. And that's not to excuse people's pain, and it's just like, all right, you know, come to my table, you're invited in my home, I'll wash your feet. And I think maybe that was the energy that you were in before, like very Mother Mary energy. And it's not that you're not anymore, but you're just selective about it, because you've only got so much energy, you've only got so much love, and you don't want to. You're just much more discerning about where you put that. And there was a point where you weren't. You were giving that loving energy to upside down emperors and Knight of Wands, thinking that your love will be good enough to transform them, or you'll finally get what you deserve. But Spirit showed you otherwise. But I'll leave that there. Thank you for being here. Archangel Michael, please protect myself and please protect the collective, and please bless us. So mote it be.